The question so many of us are wondering, and I certainly get asked this, I know you do as well, when is the next phase of shutdown? When can we expect that?
When and what are the questions we always get asked, don't we, Kieran? So, look, New South Wales and Victoria, as opposed to all states, are understood to be moving towards shutting down retail and shopping centres as part of the next stage of shutdowns, and that could occur as early as tonight. Certainly you would tip it for this week, but we have a National Cabinet meeting this afternoon. It could occur as early as tonight. Importantly on this, because you get a lot of questions about it, as I understand it, in this scenario, butchers and bottle shops will remain open. It's been made clear supermarkets, petrol stations and convenience stores would stay open. And the language around these when they happen, as I understand it, will be about more restrictions. They're going to stop calling them shutdowns or lockdowns because of what that does in our community, I suppose. And no more talk of essential services only being open, because it'll be more than essential services. Let's face it, if you've got butchers, bottle shops, etc. Let's hear now what New South Wales Premier Gladys Berejiklian and Victorian Premier Daniel Andrews said yesterday about the prospect of more shutdowns.
If we see those numbers in community-to-community transmission go up at a rate that which we're not comfortable with, we will have to put in stricter measures. And we'd rather hold off before we need to do that. But if we need to do that, we will.
There will be a stage 3. That's not today. There will be a further stage, and when that stage happens, when we make that decision, I hope as a National Cabinet, and I'm sure it will be, because we now all of us understand that the curves are all different.
Now, importantly, despite all the squabbling between the federal and state authorities on this issue on when to act, which in my view has emerged in a pretty unseemly way regularly in newspapers after briefings from both sides, there is actually not much difference that I see in the position of New South Wales and Victoria versus the federal government. As far as I'm aware, state and federal leaders want construction, mining, manufacturing, banking and energy to stay open, amongst other services, if we move to further shutdowns. It's really just a question of timing on these things, which is creating tension, which could mean different scenarios in the health and economic sense as we go down the track, and that's the calibration. It's good news, I guess, that they're looking to keep some of those key industries open, less severe sort of stance in New Zealand, because as the Prime Minister says, there are economic and health challenges here, and the economic challenges could mean deaths in itself in the forms of domestic violence and suicide. Look, Scott Morrison, he would prefer nothing else to shut for as long as possible. He'd like to leave it where it is now, but even he knows if the health problem gets worse, there's really no option. Let's hear what he said on Friday about every day other services aren't shut is a win.
I would caution against the way people talk about this word lockdown. I sometimes note that those who are often pushing for greater restrictions, they're going to keep their job. I'm not going to be so cavalier about it. I'm going to make sure I fight for every job I can, because I know that job means something very important to that person and that family.
And Andrew, give us an update on where the schools issue is at. Most schools to at least have some level of service in order to help those who remain essential in the workforce.
And the schools, Kieran, the decision was mostly industrial, because the teachers, certainly in New South Wales, would have gone on strike anyway, in which case you would have had no school. Now you have some school and you have the online learning, as we know. Having a lot of kids at home, though, does also flatten the curve, the evidence would suggest. Importantly, though, agreement has been reached to still have some kids at school when the parents have to work. They're essential workers or vulnerable. So important. The rest learning online at home, and challenging for all of us at the moment. I want to bring up some data now of mobile phone use from Sydney and Melbourne since pubs and clubs shut a week ago. News we broke last Sunday this was about to happen. This is mobile phone data the governments are using to determine how flattening the curve works. It's down 80% people being out and about, as the Prime Minister pointed out. Quite significant. Flattening the curve a bit, is it enough? Not sure yet, because it still seems cases are rising. Look, even my phone has Telstra Stay Home on it at the moment. 2 weeks ago, we had NRL games with crowds in Sydney. Now we have playgrounds shut by local councils. In my area, for example, I went to the grocery store, there's a line to get in, social distancing announcements. People walk through that supermarket wearing face masks. At the bottle shop, staff wore face masks and gloves. A man half threatened me yesterday, Kieran, because I was within a metre of him at Woolworths as opposed to the 1.5 metre requirement. So we can see now that people are taking it seriously, despite the images in Victoria. But people are on edge already. People were not leaving their homes, it seems to me, around Sydney. Yet cases continue to rise despite the Prime Minister's hopeful tone on Friday. And there are two other problems when we look at how this shutdown will operate. First of all, I'm reluctant to raise this, but what if this does not last 6 months but 12 months? That's the fear. That's why our discussions about antiviral drugs and developments there are so important, Kieran. And the other issue is this. What if you shut things down, things settle down, and then you open things up and the pandemic starts again? Those are all the things that the governments are grappling with at the moment. Let's hear what the Prime Minister said in his thanks to people for not going out on Friday.
On behalf of all the Premiers and Chief Ministers and myself, the members of the National Cabinet, we simply want to say to you, Australia, thank you. Keep doing it. You're saving lives and you're saving livelihoods.